What would you do if you walked into the most powerful company in the city, a place your husband built with his own sweat and blood, only to be treated like a criminal? Imagine standing in a lobby worth millions of dollars, while people who don't even know your name sneak stolen cash into your bag. They point fingers and call you a thief, all because they can't stand to see a woman like you walking with your head held high. They thought they were framing a nobody. They didn't realize they were touching the only person the most dangerous man in the city actually loves. Welcome to Korean Syndicate Chronicles. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and stay until the end. You really don't want to miss the moment the truth comes out. It's a busy morning at K-Tech headquarters. The floors are polished marble and the walls are high-end glass. Amina Cole walks in looking elegant and calm. She isn't here for a meeting or a job. She's just a wife trying to do something kind, dropping off the medication her husband forgot at home that morning. She wants to stay low profile. She doesn't want any special treatment. But as she nears the reception desk, she catches the eye of Sarah Park. Sarah is a staff leader who rules this lobby with an iron fist, and she has already decided that Amina doesn't belong here. Amina is about to find out that in this building, a simple act of love can turn into a total nightmare. Amina stood in her kitchen, staring at the small orange bottle of pills sitting on the marble counter. Her husband, Joon, had been working so hard lately that he was starting to forget the most important things. He had left for the K-Tech headquarters in such a rush that he completely forgot his heart medication, and Amina knew he wouldn't be back for hours. She felt a little nervous about going to his office because she usually stayed far away from his public life. She liked her privacy, and she liked the quiet life they had built together behind closed doors. She didn't want a scene or any special treatment, so she decided to keep things very simple. She went to her closet and picked out a dark green blazer and a plain black outfit. It was elegant, but it wasn't flashy or loud. She pulled her hair back into a sleek, low bun and checked her reflection one last time. She looked like a professional woman going about her business, not the wife of one of the most powerful men in the city. She grabbed her handbag, tucked the medicine bottle safely inside, and headed for the door. Her only goal was to get in, drop off the pills, and get out without anyone noticing her. She wanted to be a shadow in his building, just a visitor passing through. She had no idea that her quiet dignity was exactly what would make her a target the moment she stepped onto that marble floor. As she drove toward the towering glass building, she was just thinking about Joon's health. She was acting out of love, never dreaming that this simple errand of mercy was about to turn into a fight for her reputation and her freedom. The moment Amina stepped through the heavy glass doors of the lobby, the air seemed to shift. She walked across the marble floor with a quiet, steady rhythm, her heels making a soft clicking sound that somehow felt more important than the loud chatter of the morning crowd. Behind the sleek reception desk, Sarah Park looked up from her computer, and her eyes immediately locked onto Amina. Sarah was the kind of person who spent her whole paycheck trying to look expensive, but as she watched Amina approach, she felt a sharp, ugly sting of jealousy. She didn't see a visitor, she saw a threat. She hated how Amina didn't have to try hard to look like she belonged in a place this rich. To Sarah, that kind of elegance felt unearned and wrong on a woman who wasn't part of her inner circle. She watched the way Amina adjusted her handbag, her movements graceful and calm, and it made Sarah's blood boil. Sarah whispered something to the co-worker next to her, her lips curling into a mean smirk as she began to judge everything from Amina's hair to the way she carried herself. She felt like she needed to take Amina down a notch, to show her that a lobby like this wasn't for people like her. While Amina was just looking for the executive elevators to help her husband, Sarah was already coming up with a cruel plan. She wasn't going to let this woman walk out of here with her dignity intact. Those predator eyes never left Amina for a second, tracking her every move like she was prey that had wandered into the wrong territory. Sarah leaned forward, a fake, cold smile starting to form on her face, ready to turn a simple morning into a trap that Amina would never see coming. The lobby was getting crowded now, filled with people in sharp suits rushing to start their day, and the noise of chatter and footsteps echoed off the high ceilings. Amina stood near a digital information kiosk, trying to figure out if she needed a special pass for the executive floor, completely unaware that Sarah Park was closing in on her. Sarah signaled to a couple of her work friends, creating a small distraction by laughing loudly and moving through the crowd like a wave. As the group swirled around Amina, One of the women pretended to trip, causing a sudden, purposeful bump that knocked Amina off balance for just a second. In that tiny moment of confusion, while Amina was busy steadying herself and apologizing, Sarah's hand moved with lightning speed. With a practiced sleight of hand, she slipped a thick stack of company cash and a small, high-tech prototype right into the main compartment of Amina's open handbag. It happened so fast and so smoothly that Amina didn't feel a thing. She just smiled kindly at the woman who bumped her and adjusted her blazer. The group of staff members quickly pulled away, hiding their smirks as they hurried back toward the reception desk. Amina took a deep breath, smoothed out her clothes, and walked toward the security gates, thinking she was just seconds away from seeing Joon. She had no clue that her bag was now a ticking time bomb, filled with evidence that was designed to destroy her life. She kept walking with that same quiet dignity, while behind her, Sarah was already picking up the phone to trigger the trap they had just set. Amina took a few more steps toward the glass security gates, feeling a little lighter now that she was almost there, but suddenly a piercing, high-pitched scream from the sensors ripped through the lobby. The sound was so sharp it made everyone stop in their tracks, and Amina froze, looking around in total confusion to see what was wrong. Before she could even process what was happening, Miho Lee, the head security guard, came rushing toward her with a look of pure aggression on his face. He didn't ask for her ID or try to help her. He just lunged forward and grabbed her upper arm with a grip that was way too tight, making her gasp in pain. "Where do you think you're going with that?" he barked, his voice booming across the marble floor so everyone could hear. Amina's heart started racing as she looked at his angry face, trying to stay calm even though her hands were shaking. She tried to explain that she was just there to see the CEO, but Miho didn't want to hear a single word from her. He blocked her path with his large frame, making her feel small and trapped while the alarm kept wailing like a siren in the background. People started to gather in a circle, whispering and pointing as the hero guard held onto her like she was a dangerous criminal. Amina felt a cold wave of fear wash over her because she realized this wasn't just a mistake or a technical glitch. She saw the way Miho looked at her with such mean satisfaction, and she knew right then that the trap had officially sprung shut. The lobby went dead silent as Sarah Park walked slowly toward Amina with a wicked smile on her face. She didn't look like a professional worker anymore. She looked like a bully who was finally getting exactly what she wanted. Sarah turned to the crowd of employees who were all watching and started talking loudly, making sure everyone could hear her cruel words. "You see this?" she asked, pointing a sharp finger at Amina. "This is what happens when people think they can just walk in here and take whatever they want. Some people think that just because they put on a nice blazer, they can trick us into thinking they belong in a place this expensive." She looked Amina up and down with total disgust, acting like Amina was something dirty she found on the bottom of her shoe. Then, Sarah reached out and snatched Amina's handbag right out of her hands. Amina tried to grab it back, but the security guard, Miho, held her arms even tighter. With a dramatic flourish, Sarah turned the bag upside down and dumped everything onto the cold marble floor. The sound of the items hitting the ground was like a gunshot in the quiet room. A heavy stack of company cash and the shiny metal prototype slid across the floor for everyone to see. The crowd gasped, and a few people started recording with their phones, whispering about how she actually did it. Sarah looked at the pile of stolen goods, and then back at Amina, her voice dripping with fake pity. "A thief and a liar," Sarah sneered. "Did you really think you were smart enough to rob a company like this?" Amina stood there, her heart breaking as she looked at the medication bottle for her husband lying in the middle of the mess. She felt the hot sting of tears in her eyes, not because she was guilty, but because the humiliation was so heavy she could hardly breathe. She was surrounded by a sea of mocking faces and flashing phone cameras, and for the first time in her life, she felt completely alone in her husband's own house. The noisy lobby suddenly went ice cold as the heavy glass doors hissed open with a smooth, mechanical sound. A tall, imposing figure stepped inside, and it was like the air itself stopped moving. It was Joon Kim. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit that made him look like a king walking into his own castle. He didn't say a word, but his presence was so heavy that the people recording with their phones slowly lowered their hands, and the mocking whispers died out instantly. Sarah Park's smug smile vanished as she straightened her clothes, thinking the boss was coming over to congratulate her for catching a criminal. She opened her mouth to start her lies, but Joon didn't even look at her. His eyes were locked on Amina, who was standing there trembling with her husband's medicine scattered at her feet. Before anyone could blink, Joon's personal security team moved in with military precision. They didn't move toward Amina to arrest her. Instead, they swarmed around Sarah and the other staff members who had been pointing fingers. The accusers found themselves trapped in a tight circle of large, silent men in black suits. Sarah's face went pale as she realized the shadow standing over them wasn't there to help her. Miho Lee, the guard who had been so rough with Amina, suddenly let go of her arm like it was made of hot coal, his face turning a ghostly shade of white. Joon kept walking forward, his face calm, but his eyes burning with a dangerous, quiet fire. He stopped right in front of Amina, and for the first time that morning, the terrifying power in the room was on her side. The people who had been laughing just seconds ago were now shaking in their shoes, realizing that the thief they had humiliated was the only person this powerful man cared about in the whole world. Joon didn't waste time with a single question or a long argument. He looked up at the massive, high-definition PR screens that usually showed off the company's latest tech and barking a sharp, cold command to his tech team in the control room. "Play the lobby footage from 10 minutes ago," he ordered, his voice cutting through the silence like a knife. "Put it on every screen in this building." Sarah Park's face went from pale to a ghostly blue as the giant displays flickered and then showed a crystal-clear, 8K overhead view of the lobby. Everyone in the room looked up and watched as the video played in slow motion. They saw the crowd. They saw Amina looking at the kiosk, and then they saw it, the moment Sarah and her friends closed in. The footage was so sharp you could see the sweat on Sarah's forehead. There was no denying it anymore. The whole world saw Sarah's hand reach out and drop the cash and the prototype into Amina's bag during that fake bump. It was as clear as day. The theft was a total lie, and the person who had been screaming for justice was the one who had committed the crime. Sarah started to shake, her eyes darting around the room for a way out, but there was nowhere to hide. Joon didn't even look at the screen. He kept his eyes on the people who had dared to humiliate his wife. The giant screens showed the truth over and over again, turning the lobby into a courtroom where the verdict was already written in high definition. The staff who had been recording on their phones earlier now looked at the ground, ashamed to be caught on the wrong side of the truth. Amina stood tall, her eyes meeting Joon's, as the silent video proved to everyone that she was exactly who she claimed to be. Joon stepped closer to Amina and reached out, his thumb gently brushing a single tear from her cheek. That one tear changed everything. The air in the lobby felt like it turned to ice. He didn't look at the giant screens or the shivering staff anymore. He only looked at the woman he loved who had been treated like a criminal in his own home. He turned his head slowly towards Sarah and Miho, and his eyes were so cold they looked like glass. "You made her cry," he said, and his voice was so quiet it was scarier than a shout. He wasn't just a CEO anymore. The dangerous man everyone whispered about had finally come out. He looked back at Amina and took her hand in his. "Amina, they didn't just steal your morning. They tried to steal your name and your safety. I can call the police and let them handle this the slow way, with lawyers and paperwork. Or," he paused, his grip on her hand tightening just a little, "I can handle this my way. Right now, they will never bother anyone ever again." Sarah let out a small sob of terror, knowing exactly what his way meant for people who crossed the Kim family. The whole lobby held its breath, waiting to see what she would choose. Amina looked at the people who had mocked her, then back at the man who would tear down the world for her. She saw the medication bottle still lying on the floor and remembered why she came here in the first place. She knew she held their lives in her hands, and for a long moment, the only sound in the building was the heavy thumping of Sarah's panicked heart. Amina took a deep breath and looked at Joon, her voice steady and clear as she told him she wanted the law to handle this because the truth was already on the screens for everyone to see. A few minutes later, the lobby doors opened again, but this time it was the police coming in to do their jobs. The crowd watched in total silence as Sarah Park and Miho Lee were pulled away from the desks they thought they ruled, their hands clicked into heavy metal handcuffs. Sarah was sobbing and begging for her job, but nobody would even look her in the eye, and Miho just kept his head down in shame as they were led out to the police cars waiting at the curb. Joon didn't just stop there. He made sure their names were sent to every major company in the city, making it impossible for them to ever work in a high-end office again. 3 months later, the lobby of K-Tech felt like a completely different world. The cold, mean energy was gone, replaced by a feeling of respect and fairness. Amina didn't stay hidden in the shadows anymore. She walked through those glass doors every morning as the new head of corporate ethics. She made it her mission to ensure that no one, no matter what they looked like, would ever be made to feel small in that building again. She sat at a large desk in an office with windows that looked out over the whole city, working right alongside her husband to build a legacy of kindness. The story of that Tuesday morning became a legend in the company, a reminder that true power isn't about how much money you have or who you can look down on. It's about standing tall when things get hard and choosing to lead with light. Amina had found her place, not because of her husband's name, but because she had the courage to turn a moment of hate into a brand new era of hope for everyone. This story reminds us that true power isn't about the title on your business card or the expensive clothes you wear. It's about how you treat people when you think nobody is watching. Sarah and her team thought they could bully someone they saw as beneath them, but they learned the hard way that every person deserves respect and dignity. Injustice might have a head start, but the truth always has a way of coming to light. When you choose to lead with kindness instead of prejudice, you build a legacy that actually lasts. If this story moved you, make sure to hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. What did you think about Amina's choice? Should she have let Joon handle it his way? Or was she right to call the police? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We love reading what you have to say. Don't forget to subscribe to Korean Syndicate Chronicles so you never miss a moment of justice and lots more. We are just getting started, and you can expect the next story in less than no time. Stay tuned.